In the warm red earth village of Nkata, news did not travel by radio. It traveled by the pepper seller's voice and the drummer's hands. When the talking drum said bam bam, everybody knew something was about to happen, good or bad. The houses sat close like cousins at a wedding, with raffia roofs, wide courtyards, and friendly goats that believed every yard was their own. In this village lived a young couple, Amaka and Chidi. Amaka was the kind of woman people noticed. Bright head ties, laughter like a bell, and a step with thunder, confident and fast. Chidi was calm, a carpenter whose hands knew how to turn stubborn wood into gentle chairs. He loved quietly, he laughed softly, he listened more than he spoke. At first, their marriage was sweet like fresh palm wine. But sweetness can turn sour if the pot is left open. Soon, whispers started to float in the market like smoke. Amaka is too friendly, said some. She smiles with everyone, others said. Smiling is not a crime, but in a small village, even a long smile can weigh a heavy story. Chidi heard the whispers. He tried talking to his wife. "My wife," he said one night, "let our home be our first marketplace. Tell me what you need. If I'm slow, remind me. If I'm wrong, correct me." Amaka nodded, but life is not a straight road. It bends, and sometimes the heart bends with it. Instead of patience, Chidi chose fear. Instead of talking, he chose it. He walked to an old healer, a man with cowries in a calabash and eyes that looked like they could read your thoughts. Chidi spoke of his worry and his shame. The healer warned him, "If you place this charm, you are choosing thunder to warn the rain. It can scare the clouds away, but it can also scare your own house." Still, Chidi accepted a pot with powder and a roll. If Amaka broke her vows, she and the man would become stuck together like two mortars sharing one pistol, unable to separate until help came. It was a trap for unfaithfulness, an old magic from old stories, a lesson with a hard stick. It would not draw blood, but it would draw eyes and questions. One quiet afternoon, Chidi sprinkled the charm on the threshold and the sleeping mat, whispering the words the healer taught him. He felt sick afterwards, like someone who locked his own door from outside. He prayed that the charm would never work. He hoped love would be stronger than fear. But fear, once invited, likes to sit near the fire. Life continued. The market sang. The goats argued with tin buckets. Children played 10-10 and counted their steps like music. And the drums slept until the day it woke. On a hot afternoon when the Hamatan sky looked like it had been dusted with chalk, Nkata moved slowly. Even the pepper seller's voice sounded tired. Amaka tied a yellow wrapper with tiny bluebirds. She said she was going to buy soap and stepped into the bright day. The soap store was closed, but her feet walked farther than the soap needed. Weeks before this afternoon, Amaka had met Obiora at the edge of the village where new houses were rising like young yams. He sold phone accessories and compliments, the kind that sound like jokes but land like songs. It started with a broken charging cable. He tested it, swapped the head, refused extra money and said, "Come back if it misbehaves again." "I give warranty," measured in smiles. She laughed, said he was trouble, then came back anyway. After that, small things became regular. A spare rubber band for her market notes, a place to sit when the sun was rude, a cold sachet of water pressed into her palm on busy days. They talked about easy topics first, prices of onions, which tellers teach the neatest hems, which football team made people cry on Sundays. Then they drifted to personal things, dreams, disappointments, tiny proud moments. He listened well, and she liked being heard. One afternoon, a quarrel at home left Amaka with a knot in her chest. It wasn't a war, it was just the kind of misunderstanding that makes a house feel too tight. She told herself she was only going to the market. Instead, her feet found Obiora's kiosk. He didn't ask for details, he just said, "Sit, breathe, the sun is plenty today." He passed her a malt drink from his small cooler. On the house, he added, consider it a tax for listening to your gist. Boundaries are like chalk lines on dusty ground. If you step over them enough, you might not notice when your foot is no longer inside the circle. They started with greeting with 2 hands instead of 1. He began serving a chair for her. She began serving stories for him. Neither planned anything, neither named it. And that is how a road is walked. One small step, then another. One afternoon, Amaka bought soap and a small jerrycan of kerosene. The bag of soap misbehaved and the jerrycan felt heavier than pride. Obiora saw her struggle. Let me carry it to your gate, he offered. Only the gate. Only the gate, oh, she agreed. At her compound, the air was quiet. Chidi was at his workshop. The neighbors had gone to market. The backyard chicken held a meeting under the pawpaw tree. Drop it by the veranda, Amaka said. Thank you. You are welcome, Obiora replied, already turning to go. Wait, she added, at least drink water. The dust is wicked today. It was a simple village manner. He stood at the doorway of the sitting room while she fetched water from a blue jug. The kerosene smell was sharp, so she opened the window. Sit small, she said, pointing to a stool. I'll bring cola nuts to say thank you. I won't stay long, he answered, still hovering by the door like a visitor who meant to be a shadow. Amaka remembered she owed him small change from the last Kebu fix, coins she had left in a tin in the bedroom. Let me bring your balance, she said. Wait by the door, please. He nodded and he stayed at the doorway like a careful person. She went into the bedroom, opened the tin, counted the coins and noticed the kerosene splash on her wrapper. Ah, sister no, she muttered. She sat on the edge of the bed to tie an older wrapper over the first, the way women do to protect Sunday clothes from weekday trouble. Is the window stuck? Obiora called softly from the hall. I can open it more, The smell is strong. Please, she said, just the window. He stepped one careful foot inside to lift the stubborn ledge of the window. Fresh air slid in, cool like new water. He stepped back towards the door, ready to leave. She stood to hand him the small coins and say thank you properly. They both reached for the coins at the same time. Fingers touched. They laughed the small nervous laugh people use when they surprise themselves. The room was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes every thought sound loud. This is not wise, she said. It isn't, he agreed. They looked away. They looked at the curtain, the window, the pattern on the floor. Then they looked back at the space between them. A thank you became a soft hug, the kind meant for comfort, not for confusion. It lasted a heartbeat too long, then they pulled back, eyes full of questions, and then they made the wrong choice. They closed the space again. No force, no fight, just 2 adults ignoring the small voice that had already warned them. Amaka, still sitting on the bed edge from tying her wrapper, did not stand. Obiora meant to leave after opening the window, did not leave. The mattress offered a small squeak like a stubborn cricket. Sandals found their corners. The thin curtain shivered as if it had an opinion. They stepped over the chalk line they had slowly erased. The old magic Chidi had sprinkled on the threshold and sleeping mat of their matrimonial bedroom had been quiet, patient, and watching. It woke like a lion pretending to sleep. It did not roar, it simply did what it was made to do. A breath later, shock jumped onto their faces. They tried to separate, nothing. They tried again, gently, then urgently, but the charm held them fast. A strange, locked together stillness. They were not harmed, but they were stuck in a way no one could ever wish. Panic rose like hot water in a pot. Don't move, Obiora whispered. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Not move, Amaka whispered back. Eyes wide, she pulled the bedsheet over both of them until only their heads showed, like 2 coconuts picking from a white sack. Silence, then the bed. That unhelpful reporter gave a small squeak as if to file a complaint. A gecko on the wall watched like a village journalist. Outside, a hawker shouted, "Gary, Gary," as if the universe insisted on continuing its normal duties. Inside, time held its breath. "This is a sign Amaka managed. A very strong one," Obiora said. They tried slow breathing, tiny shifts, and hurried, clumsy prayers. Nothing changed. Finally, there was a careful knock on the window from the neighbor's teenage girl who had come to borrow matches. "Auntie, are you okay? The bed is talking, oh." "Please," Amaka said, steadying her voice. "Call Mama Nkechi, the midwife, or Auntie Uju. Tell them it's a private matter. And rappers, please, many rappers." Minutes later, feet gathered in the corridor like raindrops gathering in a gutter. Auntie Uju and Mama Nkechi slipped in with the wisdom of people who have seen many kinds of things. Auntie Uju gasped, then slapped her own mouth gently. "Chineke o." "Close the curtain small," she whispered, then peeped again, because curiosity is stronger than the wind. They wrapped Amaka and Obiora in layers of cloth, the way you wrap a newborn baby. Soft, respectful, and heavy enough to hide what was nobody's business. "Don't worry," Auntie Uju said, her voice steady. "This is old trouble, and old trouble has old medicine." The compound elder arrived with a face like a closed calabash and a small crowd behind him. Apprentices with sawdust on their shirts, 2 school children who forgot to blink, and 1 goat who believed it had VIP access to all events. The goats tried to enter the bedroom. "Out," someone said. It backed away, offended like a journalist denied an interview. A small argument began about how to move them without causing pain or shame. "Use my mat as a stretcher," the elder suggested, proudly donating his worst mat. "No," Mama Nkechi countered. "Use the long bench. A mat bends too much." 2 strong men in front, 2 behind, Auntie Uju ordered, and 1 extra to wave people away. "5, Obiora squeaked. "5, Auntie Uju confirmed. They tested the bench. It was strong. Extra wrappers became belts and slings, so nothing shifted. Everyone stared at the window, the floor, the ceiling, anywhere except the wrapped center. Respect held tight like a drum. As they lifted, the bench creaked, and the gecko did a push-up. Someone muttered, "This is a strong charm." Someone else added, "Mind your eyes, oh." The goat bleated like a talking drum announcing news. It was the funniest sound at the worst moment. 2 people laughed quickly, then covered their mouths like they had coughed. They moved into the warm afternoon, a careful procession of seriousness and whispers, heading for the place where old problems meet old answers, the healer's compound near the Iroko tree. Behind them, the village began to hum. News had put on running shoes. They stepped into the streets like a careful parade that nobody planned. 2 aunties in front, heads high, wrappers firm. 4 strong men carried the bench, arms locked, faces squeezed into the kind of seriousness you use when balancing a bucket on your head. Behind them came the landlord, the neighbor who complained about the squeaky bed, a growing tale of curious people, market women with pepper-stained fingers, apprentices with sawdust still on their shirts, and children who walked on their toes to look taller than their age. "Clear road though, private matter," Auntie Uju announced, one hand raised like a traffic warden. "Face your onions," she added to the tomato seller, who ironically sold tomatoes. The woman twitched a smile and turned her face, but only halfway. The other half of her face was still watching. Because the bench was wrapped with many layers of cloth, no one could see anything, only 2 worried heads sticking out like coconuts on a pillow. Amaka stared at the sky as if it had answers. Obiora stared at the ground as if there was a trapdoor he could fall through and start a new life on the ground. "Is it a new dance?" a small boy asked his friend. "No," the friend whispered. "It's a very old lesson." A drummer who had nothing to drum at that hour tapped a soft rhythm on his talking drum. Just a heartbeat sound, nothing loud, as if to warn the crowd. Keep your mouths gentle, but mouths are the fastest animals in the village. By the time they reached the palm wine stand, the news had already arrived, dropped itself on a bench, and ordered a calabash. Reactions poured like rain on a zinc roof. One elder shook his head slowly, counting beads in his mind. A charm is like a locked door, he said to no one and everyone. It keeps thieves out, but sometimes it locks in the people of the house. A young man whispered, "This is why I mind my business." His friend replied, "You are only minding your business today." A goat reappeared from a side path, trotting proudly as if it had been invited to lead the procession. "Shoo!" the landlord hissed. The goat ignored him and took the front like a chief of protocol until a child lured it away with cassava peels. The goat followed, offended but hungry. When the procession reached the square, the women at the grinding stone paused. One crossed herself, another muttered a short prayer, a third said, "May mercy do quick." Nobody laughed at that. Even the dust seemed to hang in the air and listen. "Make way, oh," Auntie Uju said again, softer now. "Old trouble, old medicine." The words settled on the crowd like a mat. People stepped back, forming a wide human corridor. Some placed wrappers high to shield the carriers from the heat. A boy ran ahead to tell the healer, "Prepare the calabash, oh, prepare the words, oh, prepare wisdom." They turned at the big Iroko, where the healer's compound sat like a quiet elder. Mud walls, herbs hanging like rafters, a broom leaning like a guard. The gecko from the room had somehow followed them, stopping and starting, doing push-ups on the compound wall as if signing the attendance register. At the compound, Auntie Uju's voice grew very calm. "Courage," she told Amaka and Obiora. "This is a journey with two shoes, truth and mercy. We have won the truth already. May mercy find our feet." The healer of Nkata, who people called Baba Udo, sat on a low stool with a walking stick that had listened to so many secrets. His compound was cool and smelled of dried leaves. Calabashes lined the wall like quiet guards. When the procession entered, he did not rush. He looked at the wrapped bench, then at the faces, worried, curious, ashamed, kind. "Old trouble," Baba Odo said softly, "but a new story." He asked everyone to give space. Only Auntie Uju, the midwife Mama Nkechi, and two carriers stayed. He sent a boy to fetch 3 things: a bowl of clean water, a bit of white chalk, and a leaf of bitter leaf, squeezed for its juice. "Truth is bitter when it heals," he said, rubbing a little chalk between his fingers, "and peace is white like morning." He faced Amaka and Obiora. "No one will harm you here," he said, "for a lock does not open if we lie about the key. Who set this charm?" Silence sat down in the room until Uju stepped outside and called, "Send for Chidi." A runner went off like wind with feet. They waited. The gecko did 2 push-ups and paused, as if even it could feel the tension. The goat tried to enter again, but Mama Nkechi waved it with a firm "Get out." The goat sighed and sat under the hibiscus like a reporter taking notes. Soon, Chidi arrived, dust on his feet, fear in his eyes. He did not look like a warrior. He looked like a tired man who made a fearful choice. "I said it," he said. The words came out small but true. "I was afraid though. I wanted to stop shame, but I brought shame instead." Baba Odo nodded once. "Fear is a carpenter. It builds weak doors," he said, glancing at Chidi's hands. "But this kind of charm is not a knife. It is a knot. The hand that tied it must help to untie it. He set the small bowl of water on the floor. He squeezed a few drops of bitter leaf into it, then drew a tiny line of white chalk across the surface. "This is not magic to punish," he said. "This is a lesson to remember." He placed the bowl before Chidi. "If you want peace, speak peace over this water. Call your wife by name, not by your anger. Promise better roads, more talks, less fear, then sprinkle 3 drops." Chidi's voice shook. "Amaka," he said, "I was wrong to choose fear. I promised to speak before I suspect and to ask before I accuse. I choose peace." He took a pinch of water and sprinkled 1, 2, 3 drops towards the wrapped bench. Baba Odo touched the bench with his walking stick, very gently, like knocking on a door before entering. "You two," he told Amaka and Obiora, "breathe slow. When I count to 4, exhale together. This knot knows respect." "1," he said. "2, 3. Everyone in the room held their breath. 4. There was a small, almost quiet release. No drama, no loud sound, like a tight thread let go. Amaka covered her face with both hands and began to cry softly, relief mixing with shame. Obiora closed his eyes and whispered, "Mercy." Auntie Uju and Mama Nkechi moved quickly, wrapping and rewrapping to keep dignity like a lantern with strong glass. "It is done," Baba Odo said. He lifted the bowl and placed it aside. He turned to Chidi. "You have learned that a house held by fear shakes in a small wind. Hold it with truth and patience instead." He faced Amaka. "You have learned that choices are seeds. They grow even when we hide them. Plant better seeds." He looked at Obiora. "You have learned that sweet words can become sour soup. Let your tongue be honest, not just sweet." He asked the carriers to leave Amaka to rest. He asked everyone else to leave the doorway, not for gossip, but for fresh air. Outside, the drum in the distance tapped once like a heartbeat calm again. The goat bleated softly as if to say, "I told you mercy would come." Baba Odo wrote a simple peace plan on the ground with chalk. 3 rules like stones under a cooking pot. Talk first. Don't hide shadows. Ask for help before fear becomes a plan. If you must use a lock, make sure you also keep the key for mercy. He raised the word with his palm and looked up. "Go home slowly," he said. "Let shame not walk faster than healing." Back at Amaka and Chidi's house, Baba Odo's 3-stone peace plan became a small ceremony. They swept the doorway together. They washed their hands in the same bowl. Chidi brought out the little pot of powder and in front of his wife poured it into the fire. The smoke coiled up and out like a stubborn worry finally finding a window. That evening, instead of the usual noise of plates and radio, the house held the sound of real conversation. They spoke about needs. They spoke about timing. When night came, the sky over Ankata looked washed clean. Even the stars seemed to keep watch with soft eyes. Somewhere, the drummer tapped a gentle rhythm and stopped, like a period at the end of a long, hard sentence.